Good evening to everyone tuning in from across the country to join the conversation with the National Association of Latino Healthcare Executives, otherwise known as NALHE. I am Dr. Melissa Gonzalez. I am Senior Field Medical Director at Adaptive Biotechnologies, and more importantly, I'm a board member of NALHE. We are so happy to have you here tonight with us, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our panel event entitled, What Now? Prepare for the Next Level. Our panelists joining us today are graduates of the Mesa Emerging Leaders Program 2022 cohort. We are so proud of them and all of their work, and we look forward to hearing from them tonight. So now, if you are new to NALHE Familia, I'd like to take a few moments so that you understand what NALHE is all about in this professional association. NALHE is an organization with a little over 15 years in the making. Association of healthcare leaders that are truly committed to fostering a culture of authenticity. We champion diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and we promote and advance varying perspectives and ideas that provide opportunities for Latinos, Latinas, and multicultural individuals to have a role, a voice, and most importantly, a seat at the table. The NALHE footprint spans across the United States with multiple chapters, so make sure you go to the website and look for chapters on how to become involved. And our members, and it's a growing member segment, we have early in career to mid-career, all the way to senior level executives. So it's really a great opportunity for all of us to network. Together, we want to ensure that we are advancing our mission and that we create opportunities for you to experience leadership, professional development, career advancement, community engagement, and advocacy. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, why is this important? It's important because to serve our communities, to serve our familias, they need to have the confidence that when they go in for healthcare, there are people that look like them, which means us, making sure that their healthcare needs are being served. So with that today, I am happy to say that our programming could not have been possible without our dedicated local NALHE national sponsors. And we're having a hard time loading some slides, but we will be sure to show those sponsors in our slides throughout the program. And we also want to make sure we give a special thanks to author Dr. Harvey Castro, whose book we covered during the club portion of the NALHE La Mesa program. So with that, enjoy the conversation today. Ask questions. And again, thank you. Engage and make sure you become part of the NALHE Familia. So with that, I will now hand it over to Naomi Rodriguez.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. My name is Naomi Rodriguez, and I'm a clinic administrator at WellMed Medical Management, as well as a mentorship co-chair for NALHE's La Mesa Emerging Leaders Program. It is my pleasure to introduce today's panelists who have completed the 6-month program with La Mesa and continue to inspire other leaders. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Arthur Soto to the stage. Please join me in welcoming Marlene Coriano to the stage. I would like to welcome Dominic Castillo to the stage. Please join me in welcoming Amy Madrigal to the stage. And lastly, please join us in welcoming Victor Mello. Thank you again, once again, to our panelists for joining us today. Please introduce yourself. We'll start with Arthur.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arthur Soto. I'm a first-generation student of Mexican descent. I obtained my bachelor's degree in neuroscience from Pomona College, located in Claremont, California. I am currently a full-time research coordinator for Houston Methodist Neurology, as well as pursuing my dual MBA MHA at Texas Women's University full-time. Currently, I'm located in Houston, Texas.
Thank you, Arthur.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marlene Coriano, and I am Puerto Rican, born and raised in Connecticut. I am attending St. Joseph's University studying for healthcare administration. My current job title is patient navigator at Yale New Haven Hospital.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Madrigal. I have 7 years of nursing experience as an LVN and then currently as a registered nurse. I recently took a position as a director of nursing at a skilled nursing facility, and I will obtain my bachelor's in healthcare management and graduate in December.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dominic Castillo. I'm of Mexican-American descent. I studied history at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi, earning a bachelor's degree. I then studied at St. Mary's University School of Law, where I obtained my law license, and I am now licensed attorney in Texas. As mentioned, I'm Mexican-American descent. My family is from Corpus Christi, Texas, and I'm a healthcare attorney in Austin, Texas now.
Hi, everybody. My name is Victor Mello. I am a first-generation minority student. I am a proud son of Mexican immigrants. I am from Jefferson, North Carolina. I got my bachelor's degree in healthcare management from Appalachian State University, and I am a current student at Virginia Commonwealth University's Master of Health Administration program. I'm also a graduate program assistant in the Department of Health Administration at the College of Health Professions, and I currently reside in Richmond, Virginia.
It is always a joy to hear about everyone's background and how much diversity is being brought in amongst our newest leaders. With that, how has your Latino heritage helped shape who you are? In what ways do you find it as an advantage in the workplace? Dominic, would you like to share?
I sure would. Thank you, Naomi. And it's a great question. My cultural background made me who I am today. I am who I am because of my upbringing, coming from a Mexican-American family. The household, my father was also in the military. So it was an interesting growing up. Lots of diverse people in the military. And so it was very different. This perspective shaped everything of what I do, and it helps me be a better attorney today. A lot of our clients, healthcare facilities, hospitals, they are looking for diverse people who bring these different experiences and backgrounds to the job, because you provide a perspective that other people don't have. If it's not diverse, you don't have that out of the box thinking that they really need to service all their clients or patients. And that it's really in demand right now. And a lot of corporations, not just in healthcare, but in all kinds of industries, we're seeing the demand for diverse people in all levels of a corporation, of businesses, to bring these perspectives. Being diverse and equity and inclusion, those things are super important to building a successful business. And I'm just really glad that I have a diverse background that I can bring to the table and share these experiences with people who are not familiar with where I come from.
I agree with that. And I think there's great diversity, and everyone here in this group has a unique perspective. Amy, I know you have a more clinical background as well and bring in a unique perspective. How has your heritage helped shape who you are?
My heritage has allowed me to be able to be more aware of those that may have a disadvantage, specifically with language barriers. It always brings a little bit of, well, it brings joy and peace to me whenever I'm speaking with a patient and they're kind of scared because they feel like nobody in the room understands them, and their eyes just, get so bright whenever you're talking to them in Spanish and explaining to them what procedure they're going to go through or test results that they have. So it's a great experience.
Thank you for sharing, Amy. I know for many of us here joining in our audience, maybe considering entering healthcare administration. With that, schools can be sometimes a hard decision, in choosing the right school. How did you know what school was right for you? Arthur, would you like to share?
Of course, thank you. After obtaining my bachelor's from Pomona College, I was on track to pursuing an accelerated bachelor's in nursing here back home in Houston, Texas. I was furthering my studies by completing prerequisite courses at Houston Community College, such as human anatomy and Texas government, which is an interesting prerequisite here in Texas. However, during my journey of fulfilling the remaining credits needed to apply for just the program, COVID happened. And during that time, I reflected on my current path and future goals I had at the time. And that's when I ran into Texas Women's Dual MBA MHA program, which was about the same time frame to obtain as a nursing degree, about the same cost. And I would have 2 degrees that I'm actually interested in. With the pandemic situation, finances, scheduling tours, and information sessions at Texas Women's, along with talking to a few classmates of mine from high school that completed the program, I ultimately decided to pursue a dual master's at Texas Women's University.
So similar to, as I look at choosing schools, specifically graduate schools for me, I really wanted to be very intentional about where I applied and where I wanted to go. As Arthur mentioned, I think the financial aspect was big and important, and it was at the forefront of my decision. And in addition to that, for me, it was very important that the program and school embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. And ultimately, the school that I am now was the best fit. And that's how I know that it was the program and school right for me.
Thank you for sharing, Victor. I know, Dominic, your background is quite unique as well. Would you mind sharing how you made your decision?
Sure. Choosing schools was a lot what Victor just shared, of looking at regional, where did I want to be? School is very expensive, and wanting to be close to home where I had lots of resources to support me were important. That being said, there are no law schools in Corpus Christi, so it was not really possible for me to go out. But I wanted to stay in Texas, so I didn't look around too much. But I was super grateful that I was able to find scholarship opportunities. I was able to find different kinds of grants to kind of work with that piece of it. And then practicing in Texas, I always wanted to be here. I wanted to. I'm glad that I'm working in healthcare, but like finding a school that like would help me prepare me for this level. Help me be ready to practice law when I came out of law school, and begin the process of becoming a more skilled attorney, providing services to hospitals and providers in Texas and now across the country, because I work for a major firm that we have clients that are Milwaukee and Kansas City and Boston, and so getting to go different schools in Texas, I really kind of wasn't ready for some of the experiences I've had, but I'm just grateful that I was able to go to schools that took me in. There were a lot of people like me, and I was able to get the financing that I needed to get through school.
Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. I know right now in the month of August, many universities are starting college again, are entering the new semester, including some of our panelists here had class start today. What is something that you wish you knew when starting college? Arthur, would you like to share?
Sure. Something I wish I knew starting my dual MBA MHA program was better financial planning. Luckily, my employer offered tuition assistance to cover a portion of the costs every year. However, the degree itself was slightly more costly due to other costs and fees that ultimately I had to pay out of pocket. I was fortunate enough to have applied and received a couple of scholarships, to which I'm still applying to offset some of these costs. But everything I am paying on my own, I don't have any other sort of assistance from parents and things like that. And that's more of like a personal choice. Something else I wish I knew that was the online teaching structure. I was somewhat familiar with online experience from my studies at HCC, but not to the level of a master's degree or a dual master's at that. On top of working full-time and other commitments such as NALHE, it did take a semester or so to kind of adjust to the new post-COVID learning world.
Arthur, do you have a piece of advice for anyone, transitioning from maybe going to school virtually versus now going to campus?
I'm not sure if I would know, since my studies are still like virtually, but since Texas Women's is starting to open up more again, I would say just try to reconnect with different people as much as you can. Definitely try the different, we get a lot of student newsletters where there's different events and opportunities and different gatherings that if you find some sort of interest in, I'd definitely suggest trying to go to some of those things, and as well as make new friends.
Oh, thank you for that advice. Dominic, what is something you wish you knew when starting college?
Sorry, I was on mute. So when I was starting college, I just wish that I knew like the resources that I could utilize. When I got to law school, I have no lawyers in my family, and my father went to college, but most of my other family members had not even been to the university, much less secondary school, postgraduate school. And so when I got there, I had no idea, like the first year grades are so important. You need to, you have to be on the ball right away looking for jobs, because the goal is to have a job before you even start your third year of law school. And so I really just kind of wish that I knew that, like, okay, this is kind of the schedule of things. Learning how to be a good law student is one piece of it, but there is so much more. And that I needed to be out there networking. I needed to be joining, organizations. I needed to be going to like events and meeting as many people as I could, including a lot of the faculty who can help guide you as you enter into this career field. Others who have had, a lot of family members who have been lawyers before them, they were ready to go. They knew exactly what to look for. So it was challenging. But I'm very grateful for the people who did extend their hand and who showed me the way and who were willing to take the time and share with me, this is what what you should be focused on. These are your goals, and really just seeking those people out. I really think that even if you're not sure what you're going into or want to go into, or maybe you do, but seeking out those mentors who can guide you at every level of your career. At university, at A&M Corpus, at St. Mary's Law School, and even now in working at Hush Blackwell, I have mentors at every level, and people preparing me, training me, teaching me what to do, because you don't know what you don't know. And there was a lot that I did not know.
And Dominic, just to kind of follow up on that, what recommendation would you give for someone that feels that they need a mentor? What would you say is their first step?
That's a great question. It's really finding people who have something that you want, like a professor who teaches the way that you want to practice, or somebody who you aspire to in the field. This room is full of people who I think would really be willing to help mentor. If they share something that you like or something that resonates with you, you should reach out. I think any of us would take an email or a phone call, happy to chat, cup of coffee if we're in the same town, just to share with you our experience, strength, and hope, because that's the ultimate goal of organizations like NALHE, is to help others. We've made it here. We want to keep pushing forward, and we want to pave the way for the next generation. So I think that finding a mentor is really just finding somebody that you can connect with, or has like I say, has something that you want. They have the career, or they just something about them that attracts you to them. Follow them, because that's kind of how it works.
Absolutely. Thank you for extending that invitation. And for those who are tuning in, please feel free to connect with the cohort here and our panelists who are emerging leaders, and more than happy to share their wisdom and their experiences. But with that being said, Victor, what's something that you wish you knew when starting college?
That is an excellent question. And I've enjoyed hearing, Arthur and Dominic tell us about what's something they knew. Because, as I think about my college journey, I went to community college, undergrad, now I'm in my graduate program. there are endless things that I wish I knew. But I'll talk about two things. I'll narrow it down a little bit. So I think one of the first things is I think about, that's served me well throughout my time in school and academics, it's okay to not know things. It's okay to not know what's going to happen, how things are going to go. As a first generation, I've had to figure out a lot of things on my own, ask a lot of questions, and I'll tell you, ask plenty, because that is the only way that, you'll learn and you understand and you'll grow from it. So just remember, try to be comfortable with not knowing. It'll be okay as long as you continue and ask questions, and keep moving forward. I think that'll serve you best. But like I said, I wish I knew that it was okay to not know things. And I guess my next is a little bit, more so towards not just college, but, I wish I knew my why starting college. And what I mean by my why is, why am I choosing the degree that I'm choosing? Why am I choosing the major that I'm choosing? Like what gets me up in the morning? What gets me, after a bad day, what gets me like, let's keep going, So I think, me, if I would have known my why earlier on, sometimes I think things would have been different. I would have been more involved, or, I can think so many different scenarios, but above all else, I think the journey isn't always linear. And so it's okay if it isn't, but in the end, it all works out. But those are some things that I wish I knew, kind of started before starting college, just any academics.
Thank you for expanding on that. And I know for many of us that, select a university, many of us do move away from home, and there's some things that we have to adjust in that transition. And we received an interesting comment from Jason Talbot. He said, be prepared to deal with the inability to see family, friends, and forget about TV, personal time, and freedom to rest well. But on that note, what is some things that you had to adjust, moving away from home? Victor, if you'd like to share on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, for me, during undergrad, I commuted the majority of the time. So moving away for graduate school here in Richmond, Virginia, it was really the first time moving away from home. So it was really difficult transition. So I think some things that I had to adjust, was really making sure that I was comfortable being uncomfortable. I was in a new environment, a new place. I had to begin to be open to new experiences and new people. And so I think that was something that I immediately had to adjust in my new place, in this new environment. And I guess lastly, I'll expand on this a little bit further, but I think something that I had to change was how I prioritized and managed. And I'll add one more because I'll add a little bit of more personal touch. So I'll tell you, my mom loves plants. And, I would always make fun of her because I would tell her that she was going to have a jungle in our house because there was plants in every corner. But something that I used to adjust to my new place was I started buying plants and making feel my place like home so that I would be taking care of myself. And when I put myself first, everything else followed.
That is a great piece of advice of how you transitioned and adjusted as well. How did you make sure you were comfortable with being uncomfortable?
So, I think that kind of goes to, I had to take the leap. I was alone, new people here. And that kind of goes back to, when the question about choosing college. And I talked about choosing the right program. And I talked about fit. And one of the reasons that I picked the program that I picked was because I wanted a program that embraced diversity, equity, and inclusion. And another reason was I felt that this program was going to be a family away from family. It was going to be a home away from home. And so it made me feel a little bit comfortable to have the sense that I have that support system in a new place. And so I think that was one of the first steps of me, I can do this, I can be in this environment and succeed and grow.
I agree. Support systems can come from different areas, whether, it's family, in the workplace, others, peers in the field as well. It's very interesting that you mentioned that. And Arthur, I know you also had a similar experience where you moved away from home. What are some things you did to adjust in your new place?
Yeah, definitely. Victor definitely had a lot of great points as well. For me, it was kind of the opposite. For graduate school, I decided to stay back home, but I went away for my undergraduate career. I thought it would be easy because I had already spent a semester away from home my junior year of high school when I attended the School for Ethics and Global Leadership in Washington, D.C. For a full semester. So I thought, oh, this should be a piece of cake. We all went in one car and drove 22 hours to Pomona College, and they helped me get settled in. But it didn't really hit me until my family was already ready to drive back home to Texas after orientation. I definitely did get homesick, as Jason mentioned in the comments, when everyone was flying back or driving home during breaks throughout the year. And I unfortunately couldn't afford to fly back home unless it was a summer or winter breaks. The food especially was very interesting because a lot of it's similar as it is here in Houston, because you got your Mexican and other diverse backgrounds of food that kind of intertwine within the different cafeterias, especially with Pomona College, as it's part of a consortium of 5 undergraduate schools and 2 graduate institutions. So you get a wide variety of different foods as you get to eat at all the dining halls as well. Some of the things I did to adjust were to make friends. And how did I make friends? I joined different organizations, such as Quest Scholars, which is an association of QuestBridge students, Hispanic Latinx Alliance, and even Salsa Club. Because one of the things I loved doing growing up was dancing. I even danced for quinceañeras growing up as a hired chambelán, which really made me feel back at home to find that kind of community thousands of miles away. Within those organizations, I joined the committees and even got to throw events such as having a food truck for one of our dance events, or driving to USC to join one of their salsa events. Pomona College offered various trips and events throughout the year that any student could participate in, mostly for free or very low cost, and such as going to the beach and mountain skiing in a day, visiting downtown LA, having Nochella, which is our version of Coachella for those who couldn't afford to go to Coachella. I found a home away from home, as Victor mentioned, by searching for these things I was passionate about and finding friends and a support system that helped me adjust to the new location.
It is just great to hear that you had a support system that, you cultivated, in your home away from home. I know for many of us, balancing work, family life, and school can be a challenge, and it takes a continuous effort. In that area, what advice would you give about boundaries? Marlene?
I definitely felt like boundaries are important to set right from the beginning. So I would let my family know I was either in class or I was doing La Mesa. So I would let them know these are the days and times that I would not be available. And I would also put my phone on Do Not Disturb, just to provide myself a space to be able to focus and be more attentive to what I'm doing.
I know it can be a challenge, with all the different areas in our lives to find that focus and, continue our education in that area. What would you suggest, or what piece of advice would you give, Victor?
So I think, for boundaries and some advice, something that I really began to work on, and I would advise anybody to work on, is to really be willing to have difficult conversations, about, how Marlene talked about she had certain times that she had committed to other extracurricular she was involved in, being able to, talk to them. Hey, this is going on. I'm not able to, it's not that I don't want to, I've just committed this time and a lot of this time for something else. So just working on and being willing to have in some kind of difficult conversation with, whether friends, family, or your support system, or people that matter to you, about, your busy time and things that are going on in your life.
I agree. challenges are, inevitable. And we actually received a comment, very kind of also adding to that. We received a comment from John Cruz in the comments. He says, I agree having a strong why is essential to having a clear vision and strategy as you make your professional journey. During these inevitable, challenging times, your why will give you the resilience and the push through to succeed. I think that's great advice, John. And just kind of tying back, balancing work-life balance and also pursuing a higher education, there are challenges. And, every week may look different, and boundaries becomes important. With that, what advice would you give about boundaries, Amy?
I would say that setting boundaries is really important. You have to remember that you are the most important person. At the end of the day, you have to take care of you. And sometimes when you're especially trying to advance in your career, I feel like you may sometimes want to take on more than you can handle. And it's important to be able to say, hey, these tasks are getting a little overwhelming and I need someone to help me. So I do believe that's important. And when it comes to family, balance was really difficult. Having 4 kids was hard, working full time and going to school. But, I was blessed to have my husband and kids that, wholeheartedly supported me during odd hours with nursing. That just goes hand in hand. But without their support, I wouldn't have been able to complete the program that I was in.
Thank you, Amy. I know, kind of communicating with one's family and I think they're part of this goal and the success that we have. And we have actually a comment in the chat here from Veronica Rodriguez. How difficult was it for your families to respect those boundaries? Dr. Gonzalez, what advice would you add?
I was very fortunate that when I was going through graduate school many, many years ago, I had family support. I wasn't married yet. I didn't have kids. And so everything my parents did, I knew was to further my education and to help me feel like I didn't have other distractions, but could focus on school. Now that I have 2 little chamacos running around the house, kids don't understand boundaries, right? And that's hard. So it's a battle every day to manage my boundaries myself. And that's where it comes down to priorities. Especially as Latinos and Latinas, we know that family comes first. We know that we are working hard for them, but we have to make sure that we can shut down the computer and make sure that we're still giving them the time because they're the future and they need the help and the fostering and the support as well. So, I think when you're looking for jobs, you're looking for opportunities, be honest about what your priorities are with yourself to make sure that, that you are giving all you can to people, which is not always easy. Sometimes, that computer is going to get 12 hours, but then make sure you're giving your kids and the other important things in your life that equal attention the next night so that they can say in the future, my mom, my dad invested in me so that I could be as successful as they are.
That is amazing advice. And, for everyone here, their reason why, they continue to strive for more and continue to pursue growth and professional development is different. Their why is each different. And we had the great opportunity to have, open discussions. And part of our book club series with the La Mesa program was reading Success Reinvention by Dr. Harvey Castro. And in his book, he mentions why leads to what. And why is defined as what pushes you forward to the next level. Understanding your why is said to guide you through life. And while there are many paths, this understanding can help you set your next goal. How impactful has networking and being part of a mentorship program like La Mesa Emerging Leaders helped you reinvent yourself? Marlene, would you like to share?
Yes, thank you, Naomi. Meeting the other individuals that are also part of La Mesa mentoring program allowed me to see how everyone approaches work and life differently. It provided me with additional perspective. For example, in one of our gatherings, another member, this was actually Victor, this is going to stick with me. He discussed grace. He stated, we have to remember to give ourselves grace. This resonated with me as I am used to making sure everyone else is okay and then tend to be hard on myself if I'm close to a deadline or attempting to read a chapter for school while my son is explaining how gravity works. Part of reinventing myself started with giving myself grace and allowing myself to take a time out when needed. So I definitely felt like giving myself grace is part of the reinvention.
You know, everyone's journey is different, and you know, networking has so many different impacts. You know, I feel throughout the program, everyone here on this panel has had the opportunity to grow and learn each other's stories. How impactful has networking and being part of this program helped you reinvent yourself, Amy?
Well, I feel like being part of La Mesa has allowed me to network with other successful Latino or Latina healthcare industry leaders. I feel like a lot of the times you kind of feel like you're alone in the healthcare industry. So I felt very welcome, you know, getting to know everybody that was part of the program.
Dr. Gonzalez, would you like to share how impactful has networking been for you in your career?
It has been really important. You know, when I was in undergraduate in the lab, so the biggest challenge for me when I went to Fort Collins, Colorado, was a culture shock, which I know everybody has gone through. When all of a sudden you're in an environment where the food's not familiar, nobody around you looks familiar, there's very few Hispanics, Latinos, Latinas. And so I had to find mentors that I could relate to that didn't look like me. And for me, that was really tough. And so I had to find a common language that ended up being science. And, you know, I went and I found a professor who was willing to let me into her lab. I didn't have pride. I said, I will wash dishes. I will wash the glassware. Like, I want to get to know what the laboratory sciences are like. And so I think the message is, you know, she opened a bunch of doors for me. And at the time, I didn't realize what mentorship was. I was an 18-year-old. I was just looking for someplace to fit in. And so now when I look back, I think this woman took me in. I don't know if she ever thought in the back of her mind, like, oh, I'm taking in a little Latina. I think she was honestly thinking, I see a student that wants to work really hard, doesn't think she's too good to do anything, and wants to prove herself. And then that opened doors. And then you continue to, you know, look for other opportunities. And I'll be honest with you, I ended up going to the University of Arizona for graduate school because I got tired of seeing people that I didn't look like. And then you go to another opportunity and you've got to kind of reinvent yourself all over again and figure out, who is my tribe here? And what do I need to show so that I can fit in or show my worth? So that's why it's really important to stick to your values and your prioritization, and that shines through and leads you to the right mentors.
That's awesome. And it sounds like networking really, you know, helped you along your way and find the place that you felt, you know, what was a good fit for you and helped you develop your talents and, you know, move forward in your career. I know for many of those joining in here in the audience are early careerists and are navigating the job market. For the panelists here, what was your journey navigating the job market post-graduation? And what are some lessons that you've learned since then?
I can jump in on this one. So this is a really good question. When I was going through law school, as I mentioned, finding a job was important, and doing it while you were in school. So being active in meeting people during the summertime was the time to have internships, externships, meeting with judges, and the school provides a lot of those opportunities. It was just a matter of me, taking them on. law school is very busy. So there's a lot of my time is spent studying. And how do you balance studying and going out to events to network, part of it was like you get free food. I enjoyed going to get a free dinner at some of these things because a lot of times there was free dinner. And so that was good for a law student. But I would work the room too. I made sure I shook a lot of hands, and if they gave me a card, I would send them an email thanking them, because what I wanted to do was plant seeds. So if they had an opportunity that came up, that was somebody that might think of me like, oh, I remember Dominic. He is an aspiring law student. He's going to be a lawyer in 2020. The firm has a need. And that's kind of how it worked out for me. I met my firm at an event. They really liked me. I must have shaken the right hand because they pulled my application, and I interviewed. And the firm that I'm at it's very competitive. I mean, we have people from Virginia Law School, Harvard, University of Texas, and I came from St. Mary's, which is a very small law school. So, but just putting myself out there, I just not being afraid to market yourself, really sell yourself, because at the end of the day, it's really about relationships. And if you can find people that you connect with, that like you for who you are, and you're able to make those connections, you never know what opportunities can come down the pipe. So really just getting out there, looking at having a LinkedIn profile that's really strong with lots of connections, making sure you're seeing what other people are doing, things that you're interested in, you're following hospitals or administrators or whatever type of healthcare you're interested in, you're following them, seeing what they're doing, reading the articles, staying educated. So that's really kind of been my approach to the job market.
So although this question was about, navigating the job market, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, since I am in my second year in my MHA program. I'm currently navigating residency and fellowships right now, applications, and trying to figure out where I'm going to apply. So it's a little similar, kind of, but different. And I'll talk really briefly what that's been, as it's a current process and ongoing right now. And as I reflect back at a year ago, as I was looking at graduate programs, I'm taking the same approach of, what is the best fit for me? As I look into programs, and an early careerist is still a student, I'm thinking about, what does growth look like in an organization? I'm seeking mentorship. I want to grow, and what company is willing to teach me, so that I can grow and develop into the leader and person that I want to be one day. So those are just some things that I'm kind of considering and looking into as I begin and as this journey for looking for administrative residencies and fellowships occur.
Those are definitely great points from both Dominic and Victor. Just to share a little bit from my journey during my job search, after obtaining my undergraduate degree, I applied to numerous positions across the Texas Medical Center and didn't hear back or get an interview after about 5 or 6 months. Of course, part of that is being a recent graduate from undergrad and having no work experience in research or in the medical field beyond my courses. It really just takes patience and perseverance. During that time, I even was going to socials every week and ended up working at the winery where the socials were held just to make ends meet. Ultimately, when I did hear back from Houston Methodist Neurology, it came down to 3 interviews, having a cover letter, and bringing my neuroscience thesis with me to the primary investigator that I still work with today. So really just selling yourself, as Dominic said, and standing out while being your authentic self. Currently, with obtaining my dual MBA MHA, I also still work full-time, as I mentioned before. My current path would be either to move vertically as a research coordinator or more as an administrative role. Currently, I'm interested in applying for an administrative fellowship at Houston Methodist and moving vertically that way. I've talked to a few of the existing fellows and attending informational sessions, as we've talked about during the session, that it's very important to network and to go over the application process, experiences, any tips I may have throughout this whole process. What I've learned so far is that everything is a process and that it isn't always linear. There will be times where you feel overworked or stressed or hopeless at times while job searching, but as long as you know your why, as we've talked about today, it is possible to overcome and keep moving forward, and also to have grace, as Marlon and Victor mentioned, in forgiving yourself. And the fact that we are here and doing these things that we're achieving and going to achieve means that we're growing, and we got to be cognizant of that.
It is truly remarkable to hear everyone's story this evening, and simply to hear everyone's stories on how networking, a simple interaction, really changed their outlook and open up for more opportunities. I would like to now at this time welcome Lori Thibodeau to open up for questions and answers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Thibodeau. I am the immediate past president for NALHE DFW. I sit also as an executive board member for NALHE National, and I work for Parkland Health, as well as one of the founders of this wonderful program called La Mesa. Very happy to be with you today as we discuss these wonderful questions that you may have for our wonderful guests. I think one of the things that Victor kind of highlighted a little bit was financial is a major factor in choosing a college. So I wanted to ask you guys, how did you guys find scholarship opportunities? And so I just want to open that up to see if you guys have some tips for the people who are not looking for those financial opportunities to help them get the opportunity to go to school. Would anybody like to talk about what resources they use?
Sure, I'll jump in on this one. I actually made some friends at the financial aid office, and they told me about lots of scholarships that are out there that sometimes people don't even apply for. There's a lot of free money, but really a lot of times you have to write like an essay. Some people don't want to do the work piece. I was willing to do anything, so I just applied for everything. A lot of didn't get most of them, 90% probably, but I every once in a while I get, oh hey, the San Antonio Area Foundation gave you $5,000, and that helped pay for tuition that semester or the year. So things like that were real useful to me, just finding whatever opportunities were out there. The other thing is my academic, I did my best to get the best grades I possibly could. I was very fortunate to write on to the law review. So doing things that were part of the school that offered scholarship opportunities, I tried to put myself in those positions where it helped me grow as a law student, but also, paid some of the bills, because school is very, very expensive, and I still have a pretty sizable debt, but luckily I was able to kind of minimize some of that.
And Dominic, you're right. There are a lot of funding sources out there that we wouldn't typically think of. I remember I had a Barry Goldwater fellowship. I even got a graduate fellowship from UNCF, which most people would think United Negro College Fund. But there was a group of Latinas that they funded that I got to meet through that program that was phenomenal. So I think a lot of times we make assumptions about what we can apply for, but if we open our minds, you'll find a lot of other opportunities and find other Latinos and Latinas that say, yeah, somebody else told me about it. And you find a network that way.
I know one of the things that helped me was just walking into the financial aid office and seeing that they had a bulletin board with a whole bunch of things that you could apply for. So I feel like the opportunities are there, but sometimes you just really have to go seek and you shall find, So I think we have a comment, and let's see. Okay. So our next question is, you guys have achieved many goals. So you've transitions are sometimes hard challenges. So each of you kind of went through some type of transition. What were some of the obstacles you faced? And if you could talk through how you've overcome those different types of obstacles.
I would like to speak on that. I had a tough time about a year and a half ago. I was actually in a associate degree nursing program, and I actually withdrew from that, and it was a very hard choice for me to make, but the program wasn't very fitting for me, and I just felt in my heart that it wasn't very supportive. So I did decide to withdraw, and that to me at the time, it was very hard to make. And I mean, it was really heartbreaking to have to withdraw. But a year later, I graduated from the college that I originally obtained my LVN through. And I felt like that, looking at it now, it really wasn't a setback, because I felt like I was even more successful going back to the college I originally went to get my LVN for, and, you know, getting into the position that I am now.
Congratulations. That's an awesome achievement that you went forward. You realize that, sometimes we have to pivot a little bit, and being able to take that transition and say, you know what, maybe now is not a good time, or maybe there's something that is more fitting for you. And I think that's the game of life, right? Reflecting on our experiences, what's working, what's not working, and being able to move through there. Did we have any other comments?
Yeah. So I mean, when I hear transitions, what I hear is change, at least for me, and I think change, isn't always fun. And I can tell you, when I have a transition, doing something different is not always the best thing that I'm looking forward to. So I think that is the biggest obstacle that I have faced, and something that I kind of do for that is just embracing it, because with change and a transition, sometimes there's growth, or sometimes you realize, you got to head a different direction. And for me, it's kind of served well to achieve typically what I'm looking for, or maybe what I'm not looking for.
Yeah, I like what Victor said. And for me, that change going from being a student to becoming an attorney was a, there's a lot of growing to be done, maturing. There's a lot of independence that I have with my work schedule. Like I kind of, I don't clock in anywhere. I bill my hours, but I mean, I can do that at any time of the day, but really just being disciplined about making sure my schedule is set up properly, because I'm really busy. Nobody's kind of monitoring me, so I'm free to kind of, take time off when I need it, but really just being really structured in my approach, and then making sure I'm doing things for my career development. Working the job is one thing, but also, I have aspirations to become a senior associate and eventually a partner. Those things require, additional outside of work, career development, taking CLEs for keep my law license. Those things are in addition to what I do every day. So just making those transitions. The other thing I'll say is, like, socially. So I moved into the big firm, and I remember going to lunch with one of the partners, and we went to this real fancy place, and the waiter came by, and he asked what kind of water I wanted. And I was kind of confused by the question, and I kind of wanted an iced tea. So I just ordered a tea, and he was like, "Oh, this is the water section. I'll ask you for your drink later, or after." He was asking if I wanted sparkling or flat water. So like things like that, of like me being totally out of my depth. I'd never been in a restaurant like that. I just rolled with the punches. I ended up, that night Googling it, like making sure I knew what silverware to use. I mean, some of that stuff is silly, but like it's kind of helped me grow a little bit, because I had no clue that, those are the things I'm supposed to be doing, that there's a water section to ordering food. But a funny story.
Dominic, thank you for sharing that. I love the story. I mean, we're all human, and I think as we experience new opportunities and experiences, we are going to walk into some stuff that we may not be familiar with, and that's okay, because as we climb further and further up the ladder, there's going to be tons of things that we're going to be unfamiliar with. So it's really about getting uncomfortable, or at least comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Is how I should say it. I like the way that Victor kind of suggested that transitions is really defined as change. And when I think of that, I think of COVID has probably been the biggest change, only because I'm not sure about everyone, but work from home became a way for people to became the new way for people to work. And so instead of meeting and seeing people every day, it was this virtual Zoom. I want to say we were zoomed out, but but this virtual zoomed out experience of like, oh my gosh, I hope we get to see people again. And then we couldn't see each other's faces and smiles with masks on our face. And so it was a big transition. And a lot of you guys were doing like internships around that time period, and as well as getting your first job, which I know some of you may have done orientation virtually. So anyone want to speak to that? I know we have two, I know Amy, you're a nurse, and that had to be really difficult, those transitions.
Yeah, during COVID, actually the position that I had was in the nursing administration. It was infection control. And I have to say, that was the most challenging time of my life. I felt like everybody was looking at me for an answer on what do we do now if we have positive residents, employees, and, you know, the whole world was just learning about COVID. So it was kind of hard to, you know, tell yourself, okay, figure out what needs to be done. I mean, from shutting down a whole unit to transitioning into a COVID unit and in the long-term care setting, that was really difficult. So COVID, at the end of the day, made me a stronger person, but I don't want to remember it much. It was a really difficult time.
I was. And, you know, thank you for your resilient leadership. It takes a lot to go through a transition and then to be in the front lines and taking care of patients, not knowing, you know, what type of risks are involved. So I really appreciate the service that you put in as a leader. We have some questions from the comments, so I'm going to highlight them here. So Alex asked, throughout your journey, what has been one of the things that surprised you most?
One thing that has surprised me the most, you know, entering the field and having been in the La Mesa program last year, is how well you can network even just within your own workplace and organizations. I know oftentimes within the health systems, there are so many persons who are available to be resources to you and answer your questions, show you around and help you navigate the system. That has been the most surprising, you know, how helpful your peers can be, and that there's always someone available that can guide you towards your resources in those times you have questions.
And I'll say one thing. I think the biggest thing that surprised me is that how obtainable some of these jobs and positions are, whether that be an administrator, doctor, lawyer. You know, growing up, like I, you know, think about being a lawyer. Like, yeah, that'd be a cool thing to do, but how is that possible? How do you do that? Like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough to do that. But the truth was, I got to where I got to because I worked hard. I was willing to make the sacrifices that were talked about earlier. You know, sacrificing the weekends and some, you know, holidays and stuff to push through and do the best I could, because work, you know, hard work is not replaceable. There are some people who are going to be really smart and really talented and they're going to do great and it might be easy for them. But for me, I had to really put in that extra effort to succeed. But it was there for me. It was there for me to become an attorney. I was able to figure out the financial piece. I was able to get into a good law school. I was able to get through, find a good job. And was attainable. But I would think that, you know, if I didn't come from much and I didn't have the opportunity of people encouraging me and supporting me, it would be really hard. It would seem impossible. It's not impossible. If you want it, you kind of just got to go get it. And you have to persevere through those tough times. And COVID, I agree. The healthcare system there was a major strain. And I graduated law school in 2020, and man, I had to study for 10 weeks for the bar. It ended up being 20 because we didn't take it. They pushed the bar back until September. I was supposed to take it in July. And that was a tough time. And then starting work at the firm and doing a lot of hospital work. We have been so busy. I've been slammed since I started because, you know, all our clients are major hospitals and they're all in the state of needing staffing and trying to figure out how to maintain compliance with the ever-changing rules and all the waivers. So it's a really intense time, but there's also, you know, these intense times will show you kind of your strength. You just keep persevering. There's also lots of opportunity. So just work hard. That's really all I can say is if you can work hard, you can go get it.
Dominic, I think you bring up a very good point. Just work hard. I think that's very important, but I also think that everybody is going to be experiencing these different types of obstacles. And so really, when you're experiencing any types of obstacles, know that you can lean on others, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I know a lot of times people are first generation, and so they can't sit down at their family dinner table and ask, what is it like to go into a professional workplace? Or what if you're experiencing something at work that, your family may not necessarily have those types of experiences. So really look at the people in your workplace, and not everybody is going to look like you, and so you have to be willing to reach out to allies, and an ally can be anyone. If they're willing to help you, they're an ally. So if it's a white male out there who's saying, Dominic, come into my office, let me show you how the ropes work, then that is your ally, and that's who you can lean on for support. So there's endless opportunities. Don't be afraid to reach out to people and really ask them. The worst that someone can tell you is no. And if they tell you no, you can go to the next person. There's going to be somebody there who's been through maybe the same thing that you've been through, who's going to be willing to take the time to invest in you and, speak with you. So there was a comment that was made in, and I'm going to just showcase it here, just because it's a really good comment, and it was by Maribel. In terms of financial aid scholarship for Latinos, I feel there is a lot of opportunities that are there for us, but either we do not have the right guidance or enough information to make the right decision. We're under the assumption that private universities will never cover the bill, but there are actually programs aimed specifically for Latinos. Also, organizations such as NSHSS offers infinite opportunities, and there's also the PhD project aimed for Brown and Black students. Maribel, we might be reaching out to you to find out more information. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm especially interested in that PhD project she's discussing. So we'll end with this last question. And would you recommend La Mesa to your colleagues and friends? What was one of the highlights of your cohort?
So, go ahead, Victor.
So I would definitely recommend, the La Mesa program. For me, as I kind of began to look into the career that I wanted in healthcare management or administration, I wanted to see more, people that I represented, people that were like my parents, who are my why, and so I didn't see a lot of that. And as I began networking, it was hard to relate my path to others. And so when I came into the program, I feel like really the highlight for me was meeting so many people like me that are hardworking, that are out there trying to make a positive change in the healthcare industry. And honestly, for me, that means a lot. And it gives me another why, as I add to my many whys, is why I do what I do. And that there's so many people trying to make an impact like me.
I was gonna I agree with everything Victor just said. I agree. I think the La Mesa is something that will help, develop you as you're starting out in your career, as you're finishing up school or going into graduate programs. But the highlight of the cohort is the people. There are so many talented, capable people. I hope that I've made some friends and that I continue to see how they grow in their careers. And I would hope to support them in any way I can, even if it's just chatting over a cup of coffee or something, because this is the future right here. These people you meet in these rooms are the ones who are going to go with you as you progress in your career, and making friends is one of the best things about what I do. I love meeting people. I love making new friends, and especially professionals who, like Victor said, look like me, who come from similar backgrounds, who have last names that are not, what you see traditionally, like last names like mine, Spanish last name. So I'm so grateful for this cohort. All you people are amazing people, and I'm really glad to be part of it.
Well, thank you guys so much for you guys' input and participating in our second cohort for La Mesa Emerging Leaders. I'll now hand it over to Dr. Gonzalez, who will close us for this session.
A sincere thank you for everybody that joined us this evening, and a special thanks to our panelists, our La Mesa cohort 2022. All of your hard work and dedication throughout these 6 months has really paid off, and you really inspired all of us tonight. A bit of advice for all of those that are watching. We're going to close with a quote from Dr. Harvey Castro's book, Success Reinvention. Legacies are more than the money and power. They are about how you make the next generation better, even if they don't remember your name. So as a NALHE board member tonight, I cannot wait to see how you, the following generation, is made better because of how you choose to live your legacy. We hope you can join us at our summit next month in Wisconsin. And so with that, we will close this evening and remind you to go to all of the links, look into joining NALHE, into joining us at the annual meeting in Wisconsin, and look into the La Mesa program. It'll really benefit you. Thank you.